Welcome to another edition of The Local Show here on Grassroots Community Network. I'm Erik Skarvan, your host. Thank you for joining us this week, and happy holidays to you all. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and if you do celebrate Kwanzaa, I'm going to give you some love. Happy Kwanzaa. And each week we feature inspirational locals throughout the season. And we're now already into our 5th or 6th show of the season, and I want to welcome back a repeat guest. He's the editor of the Aspen Times, David Krause. I like to say in the house.
Yes, thank you,
David
Erik.
Krause. And David, we've got Luna in the house.
Luna's
today,
in. Wasn't here last summer, or in the summer when I was here, so good to see you.
So it's about time, Luna. And you guys are pretty dog friendly at the Aspen Times too, aren't you?
We will have anywhere from 1 to 4 dogs, 5 dogs in the office at any particular time.
Nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah, a couple rescue dogs in the office. Nice little German Shepherd. So I've got a rescue dog that we got from the Aspen Animal Shelter, and I bring her in maybe once a week as well.
Nice.
So
Can you bring them in any day, or how does that work? What's kind of the policy, the dog policy?
No, as long as you...
Open door?
Open door, as long as they don't make a mess, and, you know,
Open
you get
dog
2
door.
strikes. That's right. You get
Yeah,
2
right.
strikes at the AT office, and then it's... my dog's a trash dog, so she likes to check all the trash cans when she gets in.
Okay, so well-behaved dogs.
Well, well-behaved, or at least we're all paying attention to it.
In training.
So, yes. Yes. You know those rescue dogs, they need a little more attention, a little more love than the other ones.
That monkey actually had, when I adopted her, had severe mange.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the last things you want in your dog.
Right.
But we went through a process, did some rehab. My other dog, Sammy, who's very high-strung and quite mischievous, she's doing more of a mental and psychological rehab.
There you go.
In training there.
There you
She
go.
is not even close to being ready for the local show, and she's 4.5.
Yeah.
So we've been in over a 4-year training process. Luna's like a turnkey dog. She's just such a great dog.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Dogs add so much to our life, right?
I tell you, those dogs from the shelter, they're just, I just love them. We found this dog back in the spring before we owned a property, and then once we were able to buy something, we literally signed at the mortgage company in town. My wife stopped at the shelter and picked up the dog that we had been walking for a month. Then we went to our new condo in Snowmass. So, we weren't living in that place without a dog, literally without a dog. So we've had dogs. We've been married almost 25 years, and we've always had a dog. And it just brings so much more to a family having a good dog, and getting a rescue dog. You just can't say enough about them.
Exactly. I think that,
good dogs.
I might be reading more into it, but I think they appreciate it more. I mean, especially they've been kind of like behind bars, and people look at them and then they don't get picked, and maybe I'm humanizing too much, but I do think that they appreciate it, and I know with mine. Now my third, Sammy's my third. Then I had 2 other dogs that I just got through different. Actually, they were from Chopper, who was a famous avalanche dog here, like 30 years ago. So I knew like Chopper's master basically, and I got set up with 2 Chopper puppies, which one of them was Sundog, Sonny the Sundog, who I would name my business after. But then the rescues, I don't know, they just are super loving and appreciative, and maybe they appreciate being rescued like we all do, right?
Yeah, right. They all deserve it. That's for sure. We got this one from, like I said, from Seth and his crew, and they brought her up from the Navajo reservation back in the winter time, and she was pregnant and barely a year old, and she had 3 pups at the shelter. And for the shelter people out there, her name then was Lisa, and the other pups got all adopted out, and we just kind of fell in love with her quiet personality and disposition. So she went from the reservation to the shelter to she's got a spot on the couch every night that is hers with her own little blanket on the couch. So, she's living the high life, and I think you're right. I think they do appreciate it. They sense it.
What a progression too. Right? I mean, my dog, I like to say the story of Sammy from Joplin to Aspen, literally from Joplin, Missouri, in a kill shelter, and was days away, from not having any more days. And then Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue brings in dogs from the region. And say you want a Labrador, which I'm such a Labrador guy. We grew up with black labs as a kid in Wisconsin. We always had black labs, females. And I was like, I want to get a certain kind of dog, but I do want to adopt. So I went through a process with, they have a very thorough professional screening process. They have a series of foster homes in the Front Range.
Yeah.
And then and then you just keep going to the website and you look at the beauty shots, and I saw Sammy come up. grabbed her. But again, what a progression for the dog now, living the dream and in your case in Snowmass.
Yeah, we had one in Denver. We went through the Colorado Correctional Institute. So it was, we call it she was our prison dog, and she was a rescue. And then the prison system has a training program for the inmates where they learn skills with dogs, and they spend a month at the men's prison in Canyon City. Then they spend a month in the women's prison in east side of Denver. And then they put them out, and the same thing. They're on the list, and you're on a waiting list, and you pick 3, and you go inside the prison and check out the 2, whatever 2 you pick, and either take one or you come back and get on the list. And she was, she was the best dog I ever had. But we had her for quite a few years in Denver before we came up here. So, those
Good
rescue dogs, they have a heart in them that they just, like you said, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you can really tell.
Yeah. So real quick, we're going to take a break in just a minute. But how's your winter been so far? Incredible snow, right?
Incredible.
That's the story of the winter, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 700 acres, 800 acres for opening day over at Snowmass. Last year they had 17 acres open. So,
oh my gosh, 17 acres.
When we were doing opening day over there, we were talking about those numbers. So crazy. But yeah, it's been incredible this year.
Absolutely. So you've been out skiing, I take it?
I'm a boarder, but yes, I have
snowboarding?
been.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm 50-something snowboarder, so picked it up back in the 90s.
Nice.
And just love it. I love the freedom. I love getting out on first chairs. I've written about a few times. But yeah, I don't keep track of days, but I know I'm over 10, probably pushing 15 so far this year.
Not quite in double digits yet myself, but I don't have a pass yet.
Yeah.
Just slight hurdle. So I've been skinning up.
Yeah.
I like to skin up highlands. We call it creek to peak.
Yeah.
Go from the base all the way to the top of the Highland Bowl.
Nice.
Usually I get held up, at the top of Loge because they're doing control work in the bowl. Because, of course, I only go on powder days typically.
Yeah, yeah.
The other days I'm usually guiding snowshoeing or fat biking.
Sure.
But man, Highlands has been and the bowl
crushing.
Opening a week early was knee deep untracked a week early. It was just been superlative.
Yeah, opening day there was awesome.
So good.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, buddy. We're going to rehydrate. We got so much to get to here, including the top stories of 2018.
Top stories of the year.
Now that we're wrapping up the year.
Yep. Sounds like a good time.
Most read, top stories. We're going to be right back with David. But first, I do want to thank the Aspen Times, Aspen Animal Hospital, Aspen Public House, Aspen Square, Klug Properties, Sundog Athletics, and Picken County Landfill. We're going to take a quick break, our only break of the show, guys. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and we're going to talk to David Krause, editor of the Aspen Times, and some of the top stories for 2018 and so much more. So don't go away. Welcome back to the local show. Thanks for sticking with us here on Grassroots Community Network. We also want to welcome our Facebook Live audience and our YouTube audience. David, we've gone high definition.
That's when we went
HD this summer, that allowed us to then go on to Facebook and YouTube, and you guys have a presence, and we were talking a little bit before the show about your Facebook Live.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot more with Facebook and videos. We did Facebook Lives from all 4 of the opening days this year.
Ah, nice.
Did a Facebook Live from the big Base Village celebration the other day. We've done a couple from the chairlift. It's just a fun way to get people on the scene who can't be there.
Right.
And it's just, it's not that hard to do. And like I told my staff, similar to this, probably you're the same way. Once you get over how you look and what you sound like, it's pretty easy to do. It's just not that hard.
There's an initial break-in, maybe ugly duckling stage before you get to be the swan.
That's right. Clean buzz cut from Sammy every month, and
he's my man too.
Keep drinking some water, and you sound good, and you look enough.
So are you the guy then, as the editor? Do you do those Facebook Live segments?
I do enjoy them. It's
nice.
Anna, our big video drop-in series.
Yes.
That's Anna Stonehouse, our photographer, and Rose Latacina, our digital editor. They do our drop-ins, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday on our Facebook page, and we also post them online. But then I have become the face of our Facebook Live events. And so we've had a lot of fun with them. We had opening days, like I said, all 4 opening days we did, and we talked to Mike Kaplan, just impromptu, talked to JT at Aspen Mountain opened,
Nice.
Ran into Steve Sewell when we did our Snowmass opening day. Highlands, we've talked to Katie Ertl on there. You know, just kind of grab people as they go by, keep it real light and easy, kind of like this show. You know, you just, you know, casual conversation,
Right.
8 to 10 minutes, and people who aren't here who want to be here. It's a really, you know, the comments that we get, you know, hey, watching from Argentina, hey, you know, having a good time from, you know, thanks for posting this. We'll be out there in a month, or they'll share it with their friends or anything like that. I did
That is cool.
the opening day weekend at Snowmass. We had that POW day on Sunday, and I just happened to be up on Big Burn, and it was like 2 or 3 below. And I thought, you know, I'll just throw out, you know, just click on the Facebook Live and just put the camera. You know, we're doing it with our phones. You know, it's not any kind of heavy equipment. It's just
Easy.
We have a directional mic, but I thought, well, just, you know, stick it on there, and I did a Facebook Live, just turned it on, said hello to everybody, and we're going up the burn, and I think we have about 2,500 people who have watched that video.
That's incredible.
3 or 4 minutes of people going up the chair on, you know, on the burn on a POW day.
That's where it's going, though. It's just like all of a sudden, like we've seen, you're just reaching so many more people, and then internationally, of course.
Yeah.
So it's just a super quick, massive reach.
Yeah.
So that's where it's going. You
Well,
know,
we learned that,
or at
too,
least in one direction.
With the Lake Christine fire, and they were having the community meetings. We worked with Eagle County because they had an issue with their feed, and so when they started having the community meetings, we started just doing Facebook Live from those meetings, so people who weren't there, who wanted to know, could feel like they were in the room, right? It's about putting them in the room and putting them in the place, like we write our stories, and the video is just another complement to that. And I was doing some number searches this year, just kind of recapping our Lake Christine coverage, and I believe it was within the first 6 days of the fire, we posted 11 videos. 6 of those were from the community meetings, and then others were updates. Those 11 videos garnered 100,000 views. So,
wow, that's incredible.
Because people just wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to see the progression of the fire. You know, the slurry bombers is always an incredible image to see when you're watching it live, and if you can get it on video or whatever. But, you know, press conferences, we did Facebook Lives, and people, it's a, you know, it's almost like a public service, you know, for those people who don't, you know, we know the Denver stations aren't necessarily going to watch it or pick up on it. So, you know, we are the voice of what was going on down there for that whole fire, and realize that, hey, people, you know, if you put out information like that, even in video form, they'll watch through it or whatever. But when I went back and did the numbers, 100,000 views on 11 videos between press conferences, and when the governor and Tipton and Bennett and our local electorate were there, they had that debriefing. You know, that got like 8,000 views because we were just standing right there with them, you know, and people felt like they were there at the scene. And so we realized, you know, hey, that's something people pick up on, and it's just not that hard to do. So, so those are different things, you know, like you're saying, doing Facebook Live for these things. It's just another platform that people can find the information from.
So are most of these people watching actually on Facebook Live, or it's kind of a combination of
they'll watch it,
video, you know, that has already occurred?
Yeah, so what'll happen is we'll do it live, and we can see how many people are on there actually watching it while we're doing it live.
Yeah, okay.
At one point, I remember holding the camera after our first one. I was doing the human tripod, which they teach you, you know, elbows in and hold the camera so you're not shaking. Then after that first meeting, I said, we need to invest $30 in a little tripod. So we got a little attachment so my hands weren't shaking. And after an hour of trying to hold like that, we said, let's get a directional mic and a tripod. So, but the nice thing about those videos is they're live, but then they stay on our website.
Exactly.
Or stay on our Facebook page, and we'll post some of them to our website as well.
Okay.
But if you go to our Facebook page and click on videos, you can see all the videos, the Facebook Lives we've done, all the drop-ins that Rose and Anna have done. The one that you did is posting tomorrow. Our guest Wednesday drop-in. So
I was just going to plug that, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
I went out and
look at that segue I gave you.
Beautiful. That was a beautiful segue, and you're not even in television.
No.
But you're getting that experience, and it's actually just real quick. You have a guest takeover.
Yep, on Wednesday.
For the drop-in on Wednesday. So I went out and shot the Aspen Fat Bike Loop.
Yeah.
This last weekend after we had fresh snow, and then the sun came out. and really fun to share. A couple minutes of, in my case, an alternative adventure.
Yeah.
So folks can. What's tomorrow? I think December 19th.
Yep.
And that'll be up for at least a couple days. And
it'll live there forever.
And then it'll just live there. Like you say, people can go back and check past drop-ins or past Facebook Live, broadcasts. And so people are digesting more and more in these venues, and you guys are adapting to that.
Yeah, I mean, for all its pluses and minuses, Facebook is still the platform that people are getting a lot of their news from, for better or for worse. And also their, little getaway, give me 2 minutes of something where if I'm sitting at work and I'm having a bad 20 minutes, I can go check out some ski video or whatever, and we've got it out there. I go back, our first one we did last year, our first drop-in video we did with the Avi dog at Aspen Mountain.
Oh, right, I remember that.
That thing's got 12,000.
Zoot. Yeah. Zoot, I remember that.
Yeah, that thing's got 12,000. Last I saw, it's got 12,000 views on it, and still growing because people just like that kind of content.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's a little bit of an escape. It's a little lighter, and we can show them. We're not trying to give them a ski report or conditions or anything.
Right.
We're just kind of give them a little break in the day and trying to mix it up. And so that's where we came up with the idea this year for having the takeovers on Wednesdays, and we've got a couple of brothers who are big over at Snowmass who did one last week. Sarah, a physical therapist in town, did a great job with one. She went through her jacket, finding stuff from last year, that was left over in her jacket, those kind of things.
Just fun. And they're real. It's just real.
They are. And we're always looking for people to do them. We're going to give the equipment. You got to be responsible and all that. So, zap us an email. Anna or Rose or I are always looking for people to kind of grab it and take it out on the mountain and have a little fun. We had the high school ski team do it last year for a little bit. AVSC crew has been grabbing it once a week every now and again.
That's GoPro. You guys are typically shooting GoPro.
We have a couple GoPros, and we have a nice gimbal.
Nice.
And so we had one of the on-mountain information guys the other day crashed and dropped it in, a little bit of pow and had to go digging through. And so
oops.
Luckily he found it. And but yeah, it's an investment we made in video because we know that, people enjoy having that little bit of a break, and it kind of mixes up. And so, we do a great job with photos and still photos and all that, but this is just that next level of content that people like to see.
Well, there's been a lot of content this last year, and had you on, I was fortunate to share the Lake Christine story this summer when we had you on. But it wasn't necessarily the most read story.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of kind of the most read stories from this now 2018?
So I brought the list because we're going to do a couple of these. We'll do our kind of what we did last year with our year in review is we kind of mentioned it, but then we also look forward to these stories and what they're going to be in the next year. And
okay, that makes
sense.
So
same for this year. We'll do that January 1st in our editions. But going through last year, of course, the Lake Christine, if you take all the stories that we did, and I was doing research, like I said, with the videos, but from the start of the fire until November 15th, roughly, we've posted almost 250 stories just about the fire and what's happened since the fire and all that. Wow. So cumulatively, certainly that was the biggest story.
Right.
In the area for sure, no doubt about it. If you took all those numbers, and it'd probably be 300, 400,000 page views that we got. Oddly enough, one of the most read stories on our website this year was a report that Rick Carroll did in February, looking back at the 2017 numbers when pot sales exceeded liquor sales in Aspen for the first time.
Right.
And of course, as we were talking about, anytime you have Aspen and pot and liquor in a headline and some kind of SEO value, then, that's kind of golden.
And the that triple crown.
Yeah, and that got picked up nationally, and so that was that in itself was our most read story from one that we posted in February. So, and then the other top story that also got picked up nationally because of who was involved was the Dan Fagan car crash in February. The NBA agent who pulled out in front of a bus on 82 on a Sunday in February. I think it was around the 25th or something like that, and was killed. That just got picked up because he was so well loved in the NBA by, numerous players, owners, Mark Cuban, we talked to him about that. We got a hold of him that day.
Wow.
So, and, you know, the players were all tweeting about it, and that was just a story that we were ahead of, and that one really took off for us this year. And still, you know, the follow-up stories, but, you know, one of those just incredibly unfortunate incidents. How many times have a lot of us been on that hill coming up out of Woody Creek, Smith Road, I think it is, and trying to get across to do the left, and, you know, the police, highway patrol confirmed that he was distracted, and that was ultimately the cause of his death. Luckily, the nanny and his son, who was in the back seat while they were injured, were able to survive.
Do you know how they're doing now? Is there any update
you know,
on there?
We tried to track them down, and the family really closed up, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I know, you know, within a month or so afterward that while they were both injured, they were both back on their way to recovery. But we have not been able to get them to get back to us or track them down, so we kind of gave them their space at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, once we got that final report from CSP on the cause and all that, for us, that was, you know, just finishing out that story. And certainly we'd like to know how they're doing and all that, but we're not going to sit there and pry into somebody's personal life if they just don't want to talk about it.
Well, that's actually an interesting question right there. Like, how do you draw the line between, you know, good investigative reporting and people's personal space, you know, their personal lives? Like, how do you determine
I think a lot of it is when, you know, once it becomes a public process, or, you know, you're using public resources and all that, people just kind of want to know. And they deserve to know.
Right.
You know, and so we see that, unfortunately, with some of the allegations of these rapes that are going on with the two young men in the valley that we've been following for a few months now. That's another big story that we've been following this year.
Yes.
You know, what we get in the police reports and what isn't redacted isn't, you know, we're not dumping everything into the story because we're trying to be respectful with also letting people know, one, how heinous these are, but two, without, you know, without getting overly graphic and trying to give the victims their space. And we've talked to, you know, people in the valley who deal with victims and, you know, ask them their opinions. Where do we, you know, when we need to come back to a story, we don't want to keep bringing up the same issues and what happened, per se. We're always going to say what the charges are so people understand the veracity of the situation and how bad it allegedly is. But at the same time, we don't need to rehash that every time because we know the victims are involved.
And there's a 17-year-old minor, correct?
Right.
As a part of this story.
Right.
So that's, you know, that name's been protected appropriately.
Right.
So it's a balance. You know, you're really you're respecting, well, there's regulations or laws pertaining to minors in how you're going to report. And then, you know, do we need to go through all these details over and over and over?
Exactly.
Or summarize? But then, you know, and will be a story that continues into 2019. Obviously, it's still unfolding. More people are coming forward. More young ladies, unfortunately. And what do you see in this Lift 1 corridor project? Obviously, is probably the biggest development we'll see in our lifetime in Aspen. As a big story moving forward. And I actually wanted to. There was poll results you guys just published yesterday.
Our unscientific poll.
Unscientific.
Yes. So people know, completely unscientific, but we always try to have a feeling, you know, get something out there that's somewhat current.
It's a good indicator, though. And the question was, should the city of Aspen agree to cost sharing for the Lift 1 corridor? And by far, the response was no. No taxpayer dollars should ever be allocated to third-party development rights or development projects. So I thought that was interesting. I recently spoke at a city council meeting about that. That was actually my viewpoint, and I had other opinions about that project. But what else do you see kind of moving forward as big stories into 2019?
I think, you know, not to belabor the point of the fire, but I think the recovery of the fire is going to be really big. The potential flooding issues that could happen, you know, the aftermath of what happens there could be an issue. I think you know, moving the election to March, and we've got, you know, mayor and 2 council seats up in March, which is you know, people are already picking up their petitions. They have until the 26th to turn them back in. I think that's going to be an interesting development to kind of see how that plays out. crime-wise, we're supposed to have the trial for the alleged Independence Pass hostage taker.
That's
from
right.
2016.
Yep.
That's been bouncing around in the courts, and going back and forth. They're waiting on a mental eval. So I think that'll be another interesting case for that.
We're out of time, David, but I have one last story for you. Homemade chocolate chip cookies.
I figured
and
that's what the bag
special
was for.
surprises because I appreciate your time.
Well,
and by the way,
thank
I
you.
have all biodegradable wrapping now.
I noticed that.
that outer bag and the inner bag with the cookies.
Well, thank you.
Did you have fun on the show today?
Always have a good time.
We spent another half hour. It's just kind of getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Well, that's always good to hang out in grassroots.
It is.
We do our Squirm Night here this year. We'll have one of those with the APR and Grassroots and the Daily News. So looking forward to that.
Well, thanks for all you do.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Can I say Merry Christmas?
You may say that, yes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thanks to David Krause. And thank you guys for watching this week on The Local Show.